We're live.
All right, good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is from wherever you're tuning in from. I hope it is good. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Alex with the Washington Poison Center. You all know Fiorella from the Virginia Poison Center. We are joined today for today's Talks by Tammy from the Iowa Poison Control Center. Now, Tammy is especially awesome because not only does she wear an educator hat the way Fiorella and I do, she also wears a call taker hat, so she's what we call a spy or specialist in poison information, in addition to being an educator. So she has some stories to tell. So today we are all going to talk about food poisoning because we recognize in 2 days a whole lot of folks are going to eat a whole lot of food, and we'd really rather no one get sick from it. So without further ado, let's dive in. Food poisoning kind of might seem like an odd topic for poison centers to talk about, but the name says it all, food poisoning, and that's what we do. We try to help prevent poison. So, Tammy, could you tell us just a little bit about what our call centers encounter as far as food poisoning calls go and how we can help?
Well, typically when people call the poison center, it's oftentimes a question about food poisoning. So they may have eaten something and then within a short time to even several hours later, they might have gotten sick. And so they will call concerned that they have food poisoning and what to do in those instances. Sometimes people will call because their food is spoiled. I know I've taken calls where kids, they have their little sippy cups and one gets lost, but it had milk in it. And then the child finds it days or weeks later. And you can about imagine what happens to milk if it's just sitting out room temperature for days. And then the kid starts drinking out of it. So, or people are eating moldy food. We get a lot of calls about moldy bread. What to do if it's moldy food. And sometimes it's not really a food poisoning call, but people having reactions. They eat something and then they're having a reaction to it. So it might be someone that's eating seafood and has a seafood allergy to it, or nuts and they go into an allergic reaction with nuts. And then the last type of call I always think of when we think of food is the power went out, or I discovered my freezer stopped working. And what do I do with this food that's half frozen, half not frozen? What should I keep? What do I need to throw away?
Yikes. Oh, that's never a fun day for anyone.
No.
So you mentioned that spoiled food can be a pretty common source of food poisoning. What are some other common sources or potential sources of food poisoning?
Well, typically when you think of food poisoning, it's oftentimes because someone is not cooking the food properly. So they might not be heating it to the right temperature. And that's what we think about with Thanksgiving, is making sure that the turkey has been cooked thoroughly to reach the right temperature to kill any bacteria. Hamburger is another good example. Ground meat in the hamburger, you need to make sure that you're cooking it to the right temperature to kill any bacteria that might have been ground up into that hamburger.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's see. So because Thanksgiving is just around the corner, what are some of the common culprits of food contamination for Thanksgiving meals specifically?
When I think of Thanksgiving, especially, it's either the turkey or the stuffing. But it could be other things like dairy products, things that contain raw eggs if they're not cooked thoroughly. Sometimes people are making bread and they eat raw dough, or they're making treats like cookies for when the family are over and they might be eating the raw dough of the cookie dough, which the raw eggs is the concern, but also flour, raw flour can contain bacteria also. But the big ones to think of with Thanksgiving are the turkey and stuffing and maybe gravy, depending on the juices of the turkey.
All right, good to know. So I imagine a lot of folks, because Thanksgiving's just a couple days away, are already thinking through their defrost plan. So I know of the classic method of just put the thing in the fridge for a while, for for a couple days and let it thaw that way. So what are some other safe defrosting methods?
And I always think about my household when I have a big turkey and I have a lot of people coming to my house. The space in my refrigerator is at a premium, so people can't always fit that turkey in the refrigerator. So some people think, oh, I'll just leave it sitting out on the counter, and that's not a good idea. The safe ways to do it are either in the refrigerator or putting it in some type of a leak-proof bag and putting it in the sink with cold water, and you want to change the water every 30 minutes until it's completely thawed. They also say you can do it in the microwave. I personally have not ever done it in the microwave because, again, you're talking big turkeys, and obviously you need a big microwave to fit a big turkey in the microwave. So I've never seen that done before, but never thawed out on the counter.
Good to know. Good to know.
That's hard to do. I mean, a lot of people, you know, I grew up with my mother would do that, and just growing up, I'm like, okay. And then as, you know, throughout the years working in poison centers, it's like, Mom, please do not do that. So now she just lowers it and puts it in the, you know, refrigerator now. So it's been years that she's been doing the good, you know, doing the right thing. So I'm really happy that at least, you know, there's some change with that. But it's hard when you're going up against people's, you know, traditions and what they've always done and has always worked, you know.
Yeah, and I think the rationale, people are probably like, well, why can't you do that on the counter? The reason is because the outside of the turkey is going to thaw and be at room temperature, and the insides are probably going to be more frozen. So the bacteria can more readily grow on the outside surfaces of the turkey and grow rapidly when it's at room temperature for more than 2 hours. So that's why we say don't do it just leaving it out on the counter.
I'm going to share the turkey line, the buttermilk turkey line for people in case they're interested. There's some great cooking tips too.
Excellent. So I wager, like the classic, once your turkey's thawed, washing your hands like crazy is never a bad idea. It's always a good thing. What are some other just safe handling tips of the thawed, still raw turkey?
I've also heard not to wash your turkey. Sometimes people think I'll just wash it. And I know with COVID, a lot more people are thinking I need to wash my food products before we eat them. That's not always a good idea also, because the juices from the turkey can spread to your kitchen counter, and it just causes kind of cross-contamination to clean areas when you're doing that. So we do not recommend washing the raw turkey. And also never use the same cutting board, or like I always tell my husband, if you're taking hamburgers out to the grill, I need that plate and I'll give you a new plate. You want to make sure you're not using the same utensils, the plate, the cutting board for the raw item as you are the cooked food after. Again, that cross-contamination. And if you are going to use the same plate or cutting board, you want to make sure that you wash them with hot, soapy water first.
Excellent. Makes sense. Since we're not cooking the utensils, we want clean utensils.
Yeah.
All right. So I know that the magic number for temperature of the turkeys, we want the internal temperature to be 165 degrees Fahrenheit. It's an important number. But where the heck do we measure that? Because that, you know, like we said, that's a big thing. So where do we put that thermometer in?
Yeah, and you don't want to just measure one spot of the turkey. You want to measure in the thickest portions, so like the breast, the thigh, and the wing joint. And when you're putting that thermometer in, you also want to make sure you're not touching bone. The bone will hold in heat, so it can almost give you a false elevated temperature if you're touching the bones. You want to make sure you're in that fleshy meat portion of the turkey when you're measuring it. And a lot of people think I'll just wait till that pop-up thermometer that often comes with the turkeys. even if that pops and says it's at the right temperature, you still want to use a food meat thermometer to check the temperature, just to verify it.
Good to know. And I like that you said meat thermometer, not just the one I put under my tongue. Probably
Correct.
can't stick that in far enough to get what we need.
Correct.
So we mentioned stuffing a couple times, and I'm one of those oddballs that stuffing's not really my favorite thing. But for most folks who love stuffing, what are some good safety tips around stuffing?
And I'm with you, Alex. I am not a stuffing person. So some people.
I'm not alone.
Yes. Fiorella, we're against you. 2 against 1 here. There's some people that like the stuffing in the turkey, and I understand the rationale behind it, but I think the new thinking is not putting it in the turkey and putting it in a separate casserole dish to make sure that it cooks safely and that it's safe to eat. If you do cook it in the turkey, from what I've heard, they do recommend when you take the turkey out of the oven, before you start carving it, let it sit for 20 minutes because that helps the stuffing cook even more while it's still in the turkey. And again, it's always best that you're making sure that the stuffing is also at the right temperature. And I think that one, tell me if I'm wrong, I think that one's also 165 degrees. Okay.
Yep, that's my understanding. Which makes sense because those same turkey juices are going to be getting in there, especially if it's stuffed into the turkey.
Yep.
All right, we're moving along through the meal here. I'm getting very hungry, even though it's still early in the morning. Let's talk about dessert. So you had talked a bit ago about some of the concern with dough because of raw eggs and additional raw flour. What else can go wrong with desserts?
Well, I think it's basically the raw flour and the raw eggs that are the concern. So making sure that you're killing any possible germs or bacteria that might be in those food items. So eating the raw dough that has the eggs that aren't fully cooked or the flour that's not fully cooked. It's tempting, and I know everybody has done it, and maybe it was fine in the past, but that doesn't mean it's going to be fine every time that you do that. So just be mindful of you're taking risks when you do that. And our recommendation would be not to eat it if it has raw eggs or raw flour in it.
Well, good. Well, I cannot speak today. That is good to know. As yummy as dough can, like raw dough can be, E. coli and salmonella is not fun. Okay, so we're done with the meal. We're all like in our food comas digesting. The next day, we probably want to make some leftovers. So what are some things we need to keep in mind to make sure the leftovers themselves are safe to eat?
And this kind of goes back to Thanksgiving Day. When you are done eating, we're all kind of in that food coma and we're sitting around, but we need to make sure that we're promptly storing our food because, again, if it's left at room temperature for long enough periods of time, any bacteria that might be present can start multiplying. And the bacteria Clostridium perfringens is what I think it's like the second most common type of food poisoning. And that one usually will start causing illnesses within the first couple of hours. But if you can get your food in the refrigerator quickly enough, that's going to prevent that bacteria from growing. So refrigerate your leftovers at 40 degrees or colder as soon as possible. We do say within 2 hours of kind of the preparation, or when you're done eating, you want to get that promptly in the refrigerator within that 2 hours. And try to even, like the turkey, cut it into smaller portions so that it can cool faster instead of just putting everything in one big container where it's hot in the center and more cooler on the outside. Smaller portions will help get it to the right temperature faster. And then again, when you're reheating things for that Thanksgiving leftover, the turkey leftovers, you want to make sure that you're reheating it again to 165 degrees Fahrenheit before you're serving it.
Perfect. A lot easier to do with smaller portions. Also, a lot easier to store with smaller portions. These are big birds. Okay, so I've been picking on Tammy a lot this morning. So Fiorella, I'm going to switch to you for a moment. Can you talk to us a little bit about who is at risk for food poisoning?
Well, I mean, honestly, everyone is at risk, right? So who's more susceptible and actually getting food poisoning and getting the worst outcomes from it are, for example, people that are older, 65 and older, pregnant people, kids like 5, 6 and younger, and people with immunocompromised diseases. So, for example, maybe someone is also taking medications to lower their immune system. I mean, they should take extra precautions when it comes to food poisoning and the kind of safety that comes with it.
Excellent to know. Now we've gotten everyone's appetite up and running. Now that we've been spending all this time talking about food preparation, we're going to quickly change direction. So, Fiorella, would you list some of the symptoms of food poisoning?
Yeah, so well, for the most part, they're pretty similar across the board. They got diarrhea, nausea, and they also start having some stomach cramps, and again, they're pretty similar when it comes to food poisoning. But people do need to keep in mind if they're sick for longer than they would expect, 3 days or so. They should keep an eye on it and call their doctor. But yeah, I mean, this is one of the things that kind of sneak up on you, and you will never know until you start getting sick.
So then, if anyone thinks they are experiencing food poisoning, what should they do?
Well, I'd like to say, for one thing, definitely give us a call. The 1-800 number, 1-800-222-1222. You can call anywhere in the U.S. and we are going to walk you through what you're going through and hopefully just keep an eye on you while you're at home. But I mean, if deemed necessary, perhaps you need more medical attention, we'll send you to the right place. But number one, yes, keep hydrated. That's obviously very important. And just make sure you're hydrated. There's no like bloody diarrhea, and you're just feeling like that for about more than 3 days. You really should probably go into the doctor as well. But again, now with all this coronavirus going on, I would say give us a call first. You can avoid a trip to the ER. Yeah,
Tammy, go for it.
So a lot of times when people call the Poison Center, they want to know how they can determine if it's food poisoning or something else. And you have to remember that the symptoms of food poisoning are pretty vague: nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, stomach cramps. There's a lot of things that cause that, and people always associate it with the food that they had last eaten, and it might not always be that food. It might be something that they ate a day ago or 2 days ago, depending on what bacteria is causing it. And most types of food poisoning, you will feel better within 24 to 48 hours. So if you just wait it out, treat it like the flu, even though it may be food poisoning, just good home management like you do with other illnesses oftentimes will take care of it. Our big concern is if you have bad vomiting, bad diarrhea, people can get dehydrated, especially the elderly, the older people, and younger people. Can get dehydrated much easier than the general population. So that's who we worry about the most, but it can happen to even the general population. And if you're having bloody stools, or you seem like you're keep getting worse, or it's going on longer than what you thought it should, definitely call your doctor. Get in to see the doctor. The only way to know it's food poisoning is they will actually collect a stool sample and culture that, and it takes about 2 to 3 days to get that culture back. So most people are better by the time they get their culture back. So you can either wait it out for those 24, 48 hours, and then if it's still going on, then see your doctor. And then that's what they may be asking for, is that stool culture.
Good to know. And this is all stuff that spies at the Poison Center can tell you as well. So, Tammy, you mentioned this earlier that folks will call just to ask questions before any poisoning actively happens. And we love when folks call us for prevention. We absolutely want you to call us if something's gone wrong, but you can always call us before it goes wrong, too, to offset that. Fiorella, you had mentioned this a moment ago. This is kind of a unique year with COVID-19 going on. So can you guys speak to what are some just COVID safety tips folks should keep in mind this year, especially?
Fiorella, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, well, I mean, so you know, we are obviously we specialize, in toxicology, but obviously we are also work in public health. So we do know, obviously coronavirus is a big issue nowadays, and Thanksgiving, holiday meals. I mean, you combine people traveling, people gathering. I mean, all of that. It's quite scary. So, one of the things that people are saying that if they're going to do Thanksgiving, for the most part, I was recently checking out the weather. Most places are going to be dry and not too cold if they wanted to host it outdoors. So that's most places. They did mention a couple of states that there's going to be indoors. Is that correct?
Not Iowa. Yeah. Iowa outdoors and Thanksgiving is very, very rare. So yeah, in those instances, if you can have it outside or in an area that's a larger space, that would be what's recommended. But otherwise, limit the number of people that you have so that you're not risking that exposure. No one wants to have COVID. Nobody wants to be the one that spreads it to your family either. So taking precautions is really important right now. Even though we all want to see our family, FaceTime or Skype or whatever is going to be much safer.
Yep, absolutely. The safest route would be to keep it virtual, and or to celebrate with the folks you already live with. And as poison centers are prevention and harm reduction, if folks are going to gather, like you both just said, having it outdoor, if possible, is the way to go. Limiting number of guests. Folks can bring their own food, their own utensils, that kind of thing. Preparing, making sure that there aren't literally too many cooks in the kitchen, so that there is that social distancing there.
And if you're feeling sick, you should not be the one preparing the food. Anytime.
Don't be that guy.
Not just with COVID, anytime.
Absolutely. The good life lessons to always hold on to. All right, now we've gone through all the safety precautions. We've gone a little longer today than we normally do, which is kind of fun. We've had a lot to talk about. So to round things out, what for either of you, if you'd like, what are some of the wackier Thanksgiving food stories you've heard of, specifically from poison centers? What are calls you've received or heard about?
I'll let Tammy go first in this one.
The one I really remember is there was a mom that she was cooking her turkey while she was sleeping, but she didn't realize, her son had come home from college late in the evening after she had gone to bed. And when she got up hours later to check on the turkey, it was cold in the oven. Her son thought that the oven had gotten left on, so he shut the oven off. And so who knows how long this turkey was sitting at room temperature in the oven. And we had to tell her she needed to throw her turkey away. And she wasn't happy with that because of all the guests that were coming. But we had to remind her that it's better to be safe than sorry. And when in doubt, throw it out.
Oh, that one's heart-wrenching.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Fiorella, I think you might have some more examples that you've heard about.
Well, I'll share one of my own. I went to this little kind of convenience store maybe 6 months ago, and sometimes I ran out of things. I went and I really just wanted ice cream, so Grabbed some ice cream, and it seemed quite all right. Put it back, in my fridge, and literally, I did. I got sick within hours of it. So what had happened was that I actually went and investigated. Like, what happened? Your ice cream made me sick. It looks like one of the people that were assisting, they told me that the ice cream actually they melted, melted a little bit, but they didn't want it to go to waste, so they put it back. And obviously, as a consumer, I didn't know that. All I knew was like, oh, it's cold again, or it's cold. I had no idea. But that process of getting warmer, being sitting at room temperature, what people are, stucking things together or putting them wherever they need to be. I had no idea. And yeah, just, that period, that was enough for that dairy to go bad. So that's my own personal story that, I share with people. I'm like, well, gotta watch out, or go to your maybe more trustworthy grocery stores. But that was scary. I had quite a few instances of food poisoning. So I can sit here and I try to take care, but things happen. But a lot of people don't know that, right? Like for like the ice cream thing, like it's fine. I'll just refreeze it. And then Tammy can even say more about it. But
when in doubt, throw it out. It's always
like
the
it.
safest. Yeah.
I feel like it just takes someone getting it once to feel like never again.
Yeah.
Exactly. Let me share something
on
here.
Go ahead, Fiorella.
I'll share online, and I'm sorry for the long link. So this is the Illinois Poison Center. They have a blog, and it's really neat. You see the link is really long, so I'll hide it now, but it's in the comments section. And they have this blog titled "Rare and Unusual Food Poisonings." And they talk about a couple of instances of fish poisoning, and I know some, a little bit of food poisoning when it comes to fish, but I mean, it's really neat. I don't know if you guys had a chance to read it. You guys had a chance to
not thoroughly, but I'm intrigued now.
Yeah. So the first case, we won't go. There's 3 cases. So one is the Ciguatera poisoning, fish poisoning, and the one thing that stood out the most for me was, I mean, out of all of the symptoms a person can have, a very unusual thing was the hot cold temperature reversal. So this couple of people came up, or actually, yeah, Calder Poison Center, and they ate a barracuda fish. And one of the things they were talking about was that if they were drinking hot water, but it tasted cold, and the cold water tasted hot. I mean, I just thought it was really, something that you wouldn't even think of from fish poisoning. But again, it's caused by the Ciguatera, right, fish. Let's see. And I know it's something they, it's because of ciguatoxin. So it's this fish that they eat. Some algae that contains this toxin, and that's how they're able to pass it to us. But very interesting. There's another one of another fish poisoning, but I know in Thanksgiving, I'm sure people eat fish, but feel free to look up the blog. I mean, it's really neat. At the bottom talks about mushroom poisoning, but it's a whole different talks probably.
Yeah, and awesome. Illinois. I think Illinois has some funny stories that their spies have kind of given advice on some of the more interesting ones of what they've heard over the years. So it's always fun to hear, but hopefully it's not going to happen this year with our viewers. We want everybody to be safe, and it's better to prevent these things from happening than have to call. But if something does happen, don't hesitate. The nurses and pharmacists and doctors at the Poison Center are always there to answer the questions. So we're there for you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you folks so much for sticking with us through our longer talks this time. It's been a fun run. So just to sum up, stay safe, do all the safety precautions we talked about, wear a mask, stay 6 feet away from folks, and as always, call the Poison Center whenever you need. And don't be embarrassed to call us. I guarantee they've heard weirder stories than the one you've had. She confirms.
We won't even go there right now.
Perfect. Well, thank you all so much. Hope you have a great and safe holiday.
Please share this video. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Bye.